Hi y'all, this is Jamie with Harper's Therapy, and I am here with the lovely Tony, who has written blogs this month about the journey of life and how we grow and change in different seasons and the different things we address and what have you. And she's going to share with us a little bit about what those phases look like. And so talk to me about the journey.
So I think the journey is definitely something people don't talk about a lot. And you don't realize you're in it till you're in it.
Yeah, and I don't even think you realize the different phases and how you identify or lose your identity in certain phases of life.
Absolutely.
Seasons.
It's funny, actually, one of the blogs I was writing, I started counting out how many journeys I think I've had. And I think I was at 7, and that wasn't even counting high school. Because I think even teens, you go through elementary school to middle school to high school, and then, graduating, what does that look like? And so there's all these different phases of life, and nobody ever talks about the hard time we have with it. And almost like you're just supposed to move through life magically with no problems, and you're always the same person.
And it's interesting when I think about identity, in a lot of ways, the core of who I am, I'm the same as I was at 17.
Absolutely.
In so many ways. And then at the same time, I don't look anything like the person I even was 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. So I just think that there are times where we're going through hard stuff and we don't think it's okay to change, and we don't think it's okay for this growth. But I think growth is a good thing. One of the stories I tell is that I'm divorced. And I'm in a happy marriage now, but I had a first marriage, and how just I got married because I thought that was the next step. We had been together for so many years, and it was just the right thing to do. And overall, it was a good relationship. It was probably my first really healthy relationship. So I was like, all right, this seems pretty good. This is the next step. This is what we do. But deep down, I wasn't happy. And because there wasn't a reason, they weren't beating me, they weren't cheating, everything looked good on the outside. I didn't think I could leave. So I self-sabotaged, and I need there be a reason. And now when I look back, I see all the reasons why that didn't work, and that was a huge growing point for me. That relationship was a big growing point for me. But, then I went through that divorce and being independent, and I got my own apartment for the first time, and that was magical. And I remember laying naked on the floor of my apartment the very first night and just feeling so empowered. And that was a huge growth for me. And in order to truly then, I went through these things. That's great. So how do you know you're going through this? What do you do when you're like, hey, I don't think the person I'm seeing is not someone I like? I like to introduce in the first session, and I've done it personally, Brene Brown's lantern exercise. And I know through the months of the blogs that we've done here, it's been mentioned at least twice. So the lantern exercise just talks about your values, and the lantern is something that your values are the flame. And when you're holding that flame and that lantern close, your life is wonderful. And when you put that lantern down, your life kind of gets dark. And so when I look back and I realize some of the things that weren't going right for me and what wasn't I living by, one of the biggest things for me is authenticity. And that I have to be my version, my foul-mouthed self of me in any aspect, as a therapist, as a friend, as a mother. It's just who I am. And when I'm not being that person, things get dark. And and values aren't just for you and how you are, how you want to be as a person, but what you're going to reflect out, what you want others to give to you. So I also say, I don't want people's phoniness. I don't want you to come into a session with me or be my friend and talk to me about the weather or tell me what I want to hear. Please don't do that to me. I don't like it. I'm not great with small talk. If I see it out, I'm not good at it. I don't want to do it. I want to talk about the real stuff, and I want to be honest. So I think one of the first things to do when you realize you're struggling is to be able to sit down and be like, okay, well, what's important to me and what am I straying from?
Yeah. And I think that's what people come into therapy a lot about their relationships. But the first relationship is our relationship with ourselves, and looking at what the beauty of the values is. It is a guidepost, but a lot of the time we haven't even taken the time in this phase of our life to look at what are our values. And one of mine is integrity, and I'd heard it described once about the internal being consistent with the external. And I had lived so many phases of my life where I was putting on the persona that I was supposed to be in that environment, and I had internal conflict because there were scenarios where I wasn't being true to who I am or authentic, and I wasn't even connecting with myself. And so most of therapy is connecting with yourself and getting to know yourself and being authentic and showing up in integrity, the same on the inside as the outside, of being consistent. And it's a lot of work, but it's so rewarding, because when we have that unsettled sense within ourselves, everything looks fine, but I'm exhausted, I'm miserable, there's something not hitting right for me. That's when we have to go deeper and look at, are we living, what are our values? Right. And then are we living accordingly?
Yeah, and those values will shift and change as you go through these journeys. So sometimes it's about, okay, let me realign with these values, and sometimes it's like, oh wait, those aren't the right values for me anymore. And that's
Very
okay.
True. Very true.
So if you are listening to this and this makes some sense to you, and you feel like you are looking in the mirror and you don't know who you are, and you know something's got to be different, give us a call at Harper Therapy, 813-434-3639. Bye guys. Bye.